everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Rink-Side with Hits and Clips. Well, in this episode, I wanted to create a video on my predictions for how the CHL playoffs may turn out for both the OHL, the WHL, and the QMJHL. Now, with the Western Hockey League and the Quebec Maritimes Junior Hockey League adding two new expansion teams into the leagues of their own, of the Penticton Vees and the Newfoundland Regiment, both of these franchises have now clinched a spot in the playoffs. So my predictions are going to be pretty out of the ordinary when it comes to these two teams maybe making it to the finals or even winning the championship in their first inaugural season. Now, we're going to start off with the OHL first because we talked about this a little bit in the winter recap update video that was just released. And with the London Knights currently being in fifth in the Western Conference and the Oshawa Generals being in last in the East, both of those teams made a OHL Championship Series appearance last year as both of those teams, we saw that series go all the way to about 6 games, I think, 5 games. And the London Knights, obviously, they claimed that series over the Oshawa Generals. The Gens put up a great fight, but again, it's just a total rebuild for the Generals this season. The London Knights, I don't know if they will make it that far. Who knows? They might upset someone else in their own league, like the Kitchener Rangers, the Flint Firebirds, the Windsor Spitfires, the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, whoever the London Knights end up playing in that first round. It's kind of like similar to the Uxbridge Bruins playing the Caledon Golden Hawks. The chances that the Uxbridge Bruins sweep the Caledon Golden Hawks are very likely, where last year when we looked at the London Knights and Owen Sound series in the first round, it was very likely that London would sweep Owen Sound, and they in fact did that. But what are my predictions for the OHL championship this year, and who do I see taking home that championship of their own? Well, if obviously we see the first three teams who have clinched the playoffs in the Eastern Conference being the Brantford Bulldogs, the Barrie Colts, and the Ottawa 67s. But I think it's really going to come down to both the Barrie Colts and the Brantford Bulldogs. I've heard rumors that the Brantford Bulldogs are going to be that Eastern Conference Championship team this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they are because they've done an exceptional job just building that franchise in Brantford since they relocated from Hamilton just a couple of years ago. Where you look at the Peterborough Petes, they were in last for the past 2 seasons, and they find themselves in fourth. I got the chance to see the Peterborough Petes play the Ottawa 67s probably around October or November of last year. It almost turned out to a 6-7 score. The Peterborough Petes, they made it a close game, just coming up short to 7-5 and falling to the Ottawa 67s. Now, if anyone is familiar with Mike Poirier, he is the play-by-play commentator for the Barrie Colts. He covers everything through the OHL, and if you want updates and additional stats on the Ontario Hockey League, that is the channel to go to. So I recommend that you guys go check out his channel over there as well. He was mentioning even last year, even the Kingston Frontenacs could be one of those dark horse teams that could really creep up on some of these opponents, and not even to mention the North Bay Battalion and the Niagara Ice Dogs. Three of those teams in particular will want to keep a close eye out for this season. But even you look at teams like Sudbury and Brampton, two top teams that were really going head to head over the past couple of seasons, especially when the Steelheads were back in Mississauga. I think Brampton and Sudbury were two teams in particular that could maybe see in an additional playoff championship appearance. But with Oshawa, Brampton, and Sudbury kind of taking a step back, we might not see an appearance from them in the championship series anytime soon, unless one of these teams was able to clinch that last playoff spot and upset one of the top teams in the East. As for the Western Conference, I really think that Guelph and Saginaw are two strong teams that had great success in the past. We saw the Guelph Storm go on to win the OHL Championship Series in 2019, and the Saginaw Spirit just a couple years ago will go on to win the Memorial Cup as the hosts. Even with those two teams at the moment who have not clinched a playoff spot but are expected to this season, I think those are two teams we'll want to keep a close eye out for, especially knowing how close they are to the London Knights and the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. Those two teams in particular sitting at the bottom of the Western Conference and not at the top as they have in previous seasons. But if I had to have a fun prediction of who I'm going to see in the OHL Championship Series this year, well, again, it could be an upset. London or Sault Ste. Marie could really come back and upset either Kitchener, Flint, or Windsor. But if I had to say, as hard it is to say as a Barrie Colts fan, and it's great to see the Barrie Colts in at the top at that second spot, I see it being the Brantford Bulldogs, maybe against either the Kitchener Rangers or even the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds slash the Windsor Spitfires. I don't think the London Knights have what it takes to make it to that championship series this year. But again, anything can happen. We'll just have to wait and see. Now flipping over to the Western Hockey League. And yes, that's right. We mentioned obviously already that the Penticton Vees are that newly expansion team into the Western Hockey League, playing out of the Western Conference, coming over from the BCHL last year. And if anyone is unfamiliar, you guys can actually watch Western Hockey League games for free. All you gotta do is sign up, put your email in, you don't have to pay. It's on Victory Plus, and you can watch any Western Hockey League game anytime, anywhere from your tablet, your phone, your laptop, your TV, anywhere. You can watch Western Hockey League games, even starting tonight. That's right, you can watch Western Hockey League games, and it's all for free. All you gotta do is just sign up, no pay, and yep, you can watch those games anytime you want. But seeing the teams so far that have clinched the playoffs, the Prince Albert Raiders, the Messinat Tigers, and the Edmonton Oil Kings. Now, going back to the recap video that was released a couple of days ago, the Prince Albert Raiders gave the Edmonton Oil Kings a really strong run in that first round of the Western Hockey League playoffs last year. Prince Albert going on to win it in 6 games. If it wasn't 6 games, it was definitely five. But the Prince Albert Raiders were able to shut out the Edmonton Oil Kings. The Oil Kings were the last team to get into the Western Hockey League playoffs in the Eastern Conference last year, and Prince Albert just taking that next step and making it to the second round. Who would have known the Prince Albert Raiders would end up playing against the Medicine Hat Tigers in that second round? And Medicine Hat, obviously, we know were the Western Hockey League champions of last year, and Medicine Hat currently sits second in the Eastern Conference. But some teams we're going to have to watch out for that are not too far below: Calgary, Brandon, Saskatoon, Regina, and Red Deer. Moose Jaw and Lethbridge and even Swift Current put up a really strong and dominant performance last season, but unfortunately, those three teams currently sit at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. Those three teams in particular even don't even sit in a playoff spot. It's the top eight that make it in. So if I had to see one of those teams that were going to make it in for sure, whether it was Moose Jaw, Lethbridge, or Swift Current, just looking at their current records and the points that they have, it would most likely be the Moose Jaw Warriors. Remember though, the Regina Pats were sitting in dead last of the league last year. They also had the first overall pick in the WHL draft. So they currently sit in seventh. They do sit in a playoff spot just below the Saskatoon Blades, one of their top rivals in the province of Saskatchewan. Where we switch over to the Western Conference, and the Everett Silvertips, well, not only did they clinch the playoff spot, but they also clinched the division. And I think that's one team we're going to have to watch out closely for as well. But again, if we look at teams like Penticton, Prince George, Kelowna, Kamloops, Spokane, and Portland, those are top teams that were just, a dominant individual team that put up a good run last year and even the years previous. Where even look at teams even who are sitting at the bottom this year. The Vancouver Giants, the Wenatchee Wild, and surprisingly, the Seattle Thunderbirds. Those are the three teams that put up just a strong performance in the playoffs last year and the years before. And unfortunately, it doesn't even look like they're going to even make the playoffs. Same with the Victoria Royals and the Tri-City Americans. So if the Tri-City Americans were to get that last spot, who are also tied with the Victoria Royals with 54 points, even at the moment, they also sit just below the Portland Winterhawks, who also put up a pretty strong performance in the playoffs last year. And if that was to stay, and all those teams were not to make the playoffs, and some were just to make it, we would see the first appearance, not only the expansion team of the Penticton Vees, but also the two teams that were just sitting in last and did not make the playoffs whatsoever last year, was the Kelowna Rockets, the hosts of the Memorial Cup this year. So they will be in it regardless of the Memorial Cup, as well as the Kamloops Blaze, who did not make a playoff appearance last year. But just for the fun of it, if I had to choose someone who was going to make it to that WHL Championship Series in the East, if it's not Medicine Hat or Prince Albert, I definitely have to say it's the Edmonton Oil Kings. I think Edmonton has had a really strong run. Again, we can see some upsets like we did even last year, but we never know. We'll have to see what happens. But if it's not Prince Albert and Medicine Hat on the east side, for the west, I can probably see it not being, if it's not Prince George or Penticton, definitely the Everett Silvertips. So we're gonna have to see what happens. Remember, it was Spokane and Medicine Hat in the WHL Championship Series last year. We might even see the Everett Silvertips, if not the Penticton Vees, it'll be Prince George, and then either Edmonton, Medicine Hat, or Prince Albert in the East for this coming season. And then just to recap teams who have clinched in the QMJHL, Blainville, Drummondville, Rouyn-Noranda, and Shawinigan for the Western Conference, and then Moncton, Chicoutimi, and the newly expansion team, or relocation team, I should say, in the Newfoundland Regiment. And I think this is going to be very close because, again, we saw last year how the Rimouski Oceanic, they were the hosts of the Memorial Cup, and I believe they did make the playoffs. They currently sit in ninth this year, so they will not make a playoff appearance. But if we look at teams in the Maritimes, like not only Newfoundland, Charlottetown, Halifax, and St. John, and Moncton, but I think the Moncton Wildcats, if not Charlottetown or Halifax, have a really strong chance at a playoff appearance. Moncton will be one of those top teams. And again, they won the QMJHL championship last year. They just came so close to claiming that Memorial Cup, but the Moncton Wildcats were able to claim that QMJHL championship. So my predictions for the QMJHL, who will be in the championship series, I would love to say it's going to be Drummondville or Blainsville, but I feel like it's going to be another round of Rouyn-Noranda. I feel like the Rouyn-Noranda Huskies are just too strong of an opponent. Yes, they are third, just a point behind Drummondville and Blainville in the Western Conference. But I feel like Rouyn-Noranda is going to be that top team in the West. As for the East, it's going to be very, very tight. And I think Newfoundland is going to put up a strong fight and a strong performance for their fan base in their first inaugural season back into Newfoundland. But if it's not Newfoundland, it's definitely going to be that other team in the Maritimes of the Moncton Wildcats. And I can say securely that the Moncton Wildcats are not going to go down without a fight, especially with the performance that they put up last year in the QMJHL playoffs, as well as in the Memorial Cup. So we'll see what happens, but those are my predictions for all three leagues in the CHL. What do you think your predictions are? Do you think it's going to be someone totally different? Are we going to have multiple upsets this year? Or as like what I predicted, are those going to be the teams that end up making it to those championship series in all the OHL, WHL, and QMJHL? We'll have to see. But thank you everyone so much for tuning to this video. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to our channel, ring that notification bell so you don't miss any videos like this, as well as hit that like button if you enjoyed this content. And again, if you have any recommendations or suggestions that you guys want us to talk about, then definitely drop them down in the comments and we will make a video especially for you guys. Thanks so much for the interactions, and we will see you in the next video.